Wraights the Builders were a long-established family firm in Sittingbourne for many years. Many people had begun their working lives with the company or been employed by them. I can clearly remember the reverberation around the town when the news of the firm's liquidation came in the late 1960s. Edward Wright began his business in the 1920s by building some houses with a bricklayer friend when land became available in the Woodstock Road area. Ted, as he was known, was in his 20s, but had trained as a joiner and was clearly an entrepreneur. More houses followed, and success followed success. He built an office in the back garden at Woodstock Road. They used motorbikes and sidecars to carry materials at first, before eventually buying a lorry, and then another. By the mid-1930s he employed quite a few tradesmen and bought the former gardens of a large house, the Limes, at the top of Hollybank Hill on London Road that became the Builder's Yard. A carpenter's workshop and other buildings were erected. The office building remains standing today, now used by a pharmacist. Before the war, most of the firm's work was in the Sittingbourne area, though there was also a depot at Sheerness. Among the firm's projects were the construction of the whole of Whitehall Road, many houses in Park Drive and Bell Road, and Hawthorne Road. The company had established a reputation for quality work and for being able to design and build, and they took on much work for the council. Building the new Burton's shop in the High Street and a new housing estate in Northfleet in the same year were major undertakings. During the war, much of normal life was disrupted, of course, and all resources were directed to bomb damage repair, particularly to airfields such as Detling. Many factories needed to be adapted for war work, such as Short Brothers at Rochester. There was also camouflage work, gun emplacements, anti-tank obstructions, and air raid shelters. The company also took on manufacturing work for itself, being involved in building moulds for the fuel drop tanks now being made at the paper mill. They also had an increasing workload from the Air Ministry, building packing cases for aircraft parts or ammunition boxes and so on. After the war, as life returned to new levels and men returned home, much of the work taken on was again in council housing and agricultural buildings. At one time, the company had an office in Chatham and a depot in Canterbury. From the late 1940s to the late 1950s, the firm prospered, and about 300 men were employed. Ted Wright was a dynamic man, always immaculately turned out, who loved cars, boats and good company. He was sociable and enjoyed being a Freemason and Rotarian and member of the golf club. He did not suffer fools gladly, but was fair. His attitude to the firm he had created was one of terrific confidence. They would take on anything and find a way to do it. Large company employee outings were organised, for example to Southend, to London, to the Isle of Wight and so on. An apprenticeship at Wraights was considered a great thing for a Sittingbourne boy. The firm took on apprentice plumbers, electricians, carpenters, decorators and bricklayers. From about 1949 there was also a coach building shop. The contract was obtained for doing the bodywork on special four-wheel drive Humber pickup vehicles for the Groundnut scheme in Africa. Repairs and renewals of furniture for the Navy were carried out, and for this purpose complete leather hides were delivered to the yard. Specialist lorry and van conversions were carried out for the firm's own use. Wraights had their share of council work and built houses and roads such as Homewood Avenue and Chaucer Road, and council estates at Sheerness, Faversham and Swanscombe. The firm built Highstead School. They worked at Shell Research at Woodstock, now Kent Science Park, and had a fair amount of industrial work, retail work in West Kent, and even installed benches for labs for ICI at Grangemouth in Cumbria. In around 1960 there was a financial downturn and the company began to struggle. Some of the schools' contracts in particular made them little money. The last big project was the building of the Oaks School on Gorecourt Road. The company was sold, although Ted stayed on as managing director until he retired. The writing was on the wall though, and by 1969 the firm was liquidated. Ted Wraight died in 1972 and the yard site was built on in 1976. Glad it's true that somebody that I love is you. If you have found this video interesting, please subscribe to our YouTube channel or visit our website.